Hello everyone, my name is Benjamin Bean and welcome to Space News. Today we'll be talking about some of the new and exciting things happening in spaceflight. Without further ado, let's launch right in. Space News is a series where we talk about all things space, from the ground to the outer solar system and beyond. During this series, we'll be talking about many different things happening in the spaceflight community, such as rockets, rovers, satellites, and more. Before we dive into the massive constellation we call spaceflight, I think it's important that we talk about some of the spaceflight centers around the world. Starting with Kennedy Space Center. Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral, Florida is one of the most well-known space centers around the world, famous for launching rockets like the Saturn V and the Space Shuttle. Nowadays, Kennedy Space Center mostly launches SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket to the International Space Station, low Earth orbit, and more. The Spaceflight Center will also be used to launch NASA's newest rocket, called the Space Launch System, also known as the SLS, which will take humans back to the moon sometime in 2024. Vandenberg Space Force Base. The Vandenberg Space Force Base, located in Santa Barbara County, California, is widely known for launching SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket into low Earth orbit and polar orbit. Baikonur Cosmodrome. The Baikonur Cosmodrome, located in an area of southern Kazakhstan, is known for being the first spaceport for orbital and human launches, and nowadays is known for launching a rocket called Soyuz to the International Space Station for supplies and crew members. Starbase. Starbase is a spaceport and production center made by SpaceX in Boca Chica, Texas, for a specific rocket named Starship and Starship Super Heavy. The program focuses on expanding the capability humans have in space, and to eventually bring humans to the moon and Mars. There's always something happening at Starbase, but due to the nature of the testing, we will not be able to give you any information until after it has already happened. There are many more spaceflight centers around the world, but that means there are far too many for me to cover in one episode, so for now, we'll be moving on to our next segment. There are some very exciting things going on in spaceflight right now, and this one will amaze you. NASA is bringing humans back to the moon. That's right, for the first time in over 50 years, humanity will be back on the moon and, in the near future, possibly have a full-time presence on the lunar surface. During the month of March 2011, NASA announced a rocket to be built. That rocket was called the Space Launch System, also known as SLS. SLS is the most powerful rocket ever built by NASA. The high-performance rocket will provide the power to help Orion, the crew capsule, to reach a speed of over 24,000 miles per hour. The first SLS vehicle, called Block 1, can send more than 27 metric tons, or just over 59,000 pounds, to orbits beyond the moon. It will be powered by two 5-segment solid rocket boosters and 4 RS-25 liquid propellant engines. After reaching space, the Interim Cryogenic Propulsion Stage, the ICPS, sends Orion onto the moon. The first 3 Artemis missions will use a Block 1 rocket with an ICPS upper stage. Block 1B crew vehicle will use a new, more powerful exploration upper stage to enable more ambitious missions. The Block 1B vehicle, in a single launch, can carry the Orion crew vehicle along with large cargoes or exploration systems needed to support a sustained presence on the moon. The next SLS configuration, Block 2, will provide 9.5 million pounds of thrust and will be the workhorse vehicle for sending cargo to the moon, Mars, and other deep space destinations. SLS Block 2 will be designed to lift more than 46 tons to deep space. An evolvable design provides the nation with a rocket able to pioneer new human and robotic spaceflight missions. As of right now, NASA has not given us a precise day for when we can expect to see SLS blast off to the moon with crew, but NASA has said we can expect a crewed launch sometime around November of 2024. I am very excited to see humans launching back to the moon, and I hope you are too. Now, moving on to our next segment. Out with the old and in with the new. The International Space Station, also known as the ISS, is reaching the end of its lifespan. NASA is spending nearly $1 billion on a space tug to deorbit the ISS at the end of 2030. After the ISS is deorbited, NASA will be working with private companies to build new commercial stations in low Earth orbit and orbits around the moon. Switching gears, let's talk about STARLINK. Let's talk about STARLINK. STARLINK is a satellite internet constellation that is developed and operated by SpaceX, providing internet access to over 50 countries. It also aims for global mobile phone service after 2023. SpaceX started launching STARLINK satellites in 2019. As of February 2023, STARLINK consists of over 3,500 small satellites in low Earth orbit, which communicate with ground transceivers bought by customers. In total, nearly 12,000 satellites are planned to be deployed, with a possible later extension to 42,000. Astronomers have raised concerns about the effects the constellation can have on ground-based astronomy and how the satellites will add to an already congested orbital environment. SpaceX has attempted to mitigate astronomy concerns by implementing several upgrades to Starlink satellites aimed at reducing their brightness during operation. Well, that looks like all the time we have. Thank you for tuning in to Space News. If you have any questions or feedback, feel free to contact the studio at 569-0219 or at wctv25@gmail.com. I'm Benjamin Bean, and I hope to see you on the next episode of Space News.